Salute discipuli. Alright, so here we go. We're just going to do some quick highlights of the course syllabus. Nothing really life-changing or earth-shattering. But anyway, here you go, the stuff you need to know. Alright, so basically course description is there for those of you that are joining us from 2019's level 1. Latin has shifted a little bit even further. You started to see the beginnings of basically our moving into the teaching Latin through the natural approach and through comprehensible input. So now you're going to kind of see just more and more of that. So the course description is we are developing your communicative skills of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And what that really is going to mean for you is that your assessments are going to look rather different. You're going to be being assessed on the 4 skills of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And I'll go over more of that in just a few minutes. And then required materials. You should definitely make sure that you are bringing your whiteboard, etc. that I've given you every day if you're in person or if you're at home. That's basically your little Latin kit that you need to have with you as at all times. The other thing that you have is you have the In Veneto book. And that is something that we're not going to need for a little while, so just make sure that you put that someplace where you know you won't lose it. We'll probably start taking a look at it probably no earlier than about mid-semester, so you can kind of just put that off to the side somewhere, but make sure that you don't lose it. I wanted to make sure everybody had it right at the beginning, just in case we have to take some I mean, you all saw how 2020 was, so 2021, God only knows what's going to happen. So I wanted to make sure you all had the book. The book is not for you to keep. The book is something that you will have to return, so don't write in it. And please, please, please try to take at least a little bit care of it. The other required materials that you're going to want to make sure you have is you are going to want to have earbuds or headphones, and you're going to want to have these with you whether you're in person or at home. There are going to be some activities where the audio is a little probably wonky, simply because we're just not dealing with, we don't have as many resources as the other languages do, so sometimes I can't help the audio quality, so it's going to be important for you to have earbuds and headphones. Also, sometimes when you are in person, it may be important for you to be talking with somebody who is at home. And if you're working with somebody who's at home, it's going to help them out immensely if you have headphones so that they're not getting some super weird echo. So please, please, please make sure you have earbuds or headphones of some sort that can connect to your Chromebook and that have a microphone. If you are still really, really loving Latin and you want to get a Latin dictionary, I have the AMSCO dictionary is the one that I recommend, but pretty much any Latin dictionary will do. Just whatever one you choose, make sure that you take a look at it. That's not a required, that's something that you'll need more as we get later into the semester, and that'll be something that you maybe want if you're proceeding on to level 3, 4, and 5. All right, so you have no official textbook, so that's kind of fun, and your essential learnings are listed there. The main thing I want to go over on as far as grading and assessments is let's actually talk about the assessment policy and what that looks like. So for those of you that were with me last semester, obviously this has not changed. It's just you're now leveling up to level 2. To those of you that were in level 1 back in good old 2019, we've changed a little bit. So we're doing evidence-based reporting, which I'm sure you've all been hearing and seeing and hopefully have experienced in some of your other classes. So basically we're going to focus on the 4 skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And that is going to be what makes up your grade. So how this helps you, what this really kind of means for you, is that each time we do an assessment, I will be focusing on one of the skills: reading, writing, listening, or speaking. So if I'm assessing you on your reading, I am really only looking to see that you can read, which means I'm going to give you a Latin passage or I'm going to give you an infographic or something of that nature, and then I'm going to ask you questions about it in English, because I'm not worried about whether you can write something in English on that assessment. I'm worried about whether you can read something on that assessment. And then same for all of the other items. So like speaking is probably the one that'll give people the most anxiety. And really in the long run, speaking is probably one of the easiest ones as far as the assessments go. Because as long as you can overcome your anxiety, I'm not even listening for perfect grammar or anything like that. You don't even have to always give me the right answer for a speaking assessment. I'm going to be asking you questions, or we're going to be talking about something that you're kind of leading the way on what you want to talk about. And as long as I can understand what you're trying to say, and as long as we can have some kind of a conversation, you're going to be scoring rather well. So I know this one is probably, speaking is probably the one that really does freak people out the most. But it is one of the skills that, I mean, really, the assessment is whatever you bring to it. If there's so for example, if our first speaking assessment is that you just have to maintain a conversation with me for 2 minutes, that means that you can talk about whatever is in your wheelhouse, whatever you feel comfortable with. If you want to talk about the weather for 2 minutes because you know all of the weather vocab, we can talk about the weather. If you would rather talk about your dog because you know tons of adjectives to describe your dog and you want to talk about everything that you've ever done with your dog, we can do that. So really, it's not such a difficult area for the assessment piece. All right, so anyway, so that's kind of that. The main reason, though, to show you is this grade breakdown, right? So each of these numbers represents one of the 4 skills. So you'll be given a rubric for each of the skills, and we'll get to that in a moment. And basically, in order to get an A, you can score all 4s on all 4 skills, or you just have to score a 3, which is considered a meets, in all of the skills, with the exception of one skill that you'll have to achieve a 4. So really, achieving an A is actually easier. Also with these numbers, the things to know is that really it's only your most recent assessment that will matter. So we will do some baseline assessing over the next couple days and into the next week. And most of you are going to score somewhere in the 1 and 2 range. And that's just because I'm assessing you at where I expect you to be at the end of level 2. So that being said, there's not a whole lot of remediation to do or things like that. It's just you're waiting for the next opportunity to show me that your skills have increased, and that'll make more sense as we go through. You can see over here, on the side, if you take, we have your essential learnings for for level 2, and these I have pretty well worked out, with the exception of conventions. This is a working document, and last year I assessed you on conventions in level 2, which is basically just a fancy word for grammar, but this is actually changing this year, because I really don't ever need to assess you on your grammar, because I'm either going to be able to understand you or not understand you, which means you don't have a whole lot of rules and things like that to memorize. It's just I want you to focus on the exposure to the language. So these two sections will be being adjusted. Also, by the end of the week, I hope to have your actual rubric for each of the skills linked here so that you can access them whenever you want. So that's kind of the big part of the syllabus, is that assessment policy, and you can see it here. Again, it's a living document that I'm adapting, and probably will be adapting a bit to just due to our restrictions with COVID. So bark, we're not really assessing you on bark, so just kind of ignore that. Characteristics of a successful student, this is also a little bit outdated simply because of what we're dealing with COVID. So we're going to be having smaller group discussions today based on whichever mode it is that you're going to be doing. And I'll be explaining to you very specifically what I expect out of a full remote kid versus what I expect out of a hybrid kid. Because for like a full remote kid, it's going to be way more important for me to see you on the camera, because I need to see some of your, I need visual cues on kind of what you're doing and what's going on. I also need to see better that you're like really actually trying and participating with us. Whereas a kid who's hybrid that I'm going to see every other day, I don't need to see your camera so much. But I will need you to be like very present on the days that you're in person. And it doesn't mean that your day at home is something that turns into like a blow off day or anything like that. It's just like it's just there's I have different needs based on your mode. Because if I can't get your visual cues from you while you're at home, I can definitely get them from you in person. But if you're always at home, then I need to get those somehow. So that kind of there's more information on the syllabus about some other things, but really we're kind of just ebbing and flowing with this, as well as you've been doing all first semester. So we'll have some question and answer time here at the end. So just make sure any questions that you have, write them down. We'll talk about them. I'm sure I've forgotten a couple things, but this is just kind of your general, this is what we're doing. All right, so walete, and go ahead and move on to the next item in the document. All right, Wale.